Driving change in maritime. Welcome to another Vodcast of Teqplay. Today I will have a conversation with Marlon Drinkwaard, founder and CEO of AquaSmartXL. We're going to talk about aquatic drones, the value and the future of them. Are you looking forward to learn what you can do with aquatic drones as well? I am. Marlon, welcome in our podcast. Really good to have you over here. We're actually in the same building,
Yes.
And now we are having a conversation that we normally have in our offices, but now for the audience.
Yes,
but
thanks,
maybe,
Leon.
good to have you over here. But maybe introduce you very shortly, like who you are, what is AquaSmartXL, that the audience also has an idea of who is at the table.
Okay, thanks for having me. That's the first thing. I mean, AquaSmartXL, Marlon Drinkwaard. We founded the company 2016, and the aim is to help infrastructure managers, asset managers in the port infrastructure to get to know the status of the maintenance of their. Okay, I will just continue. So that is the thing we try to solve, is the status of the maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that port infrastructure is very important because we have a lot of traffic from boats between ports, but nobody takes really good attention of the quality of the quay walls and the jetties. And this is what we are trying to do.
Okay, so you give the insights that people know it's safe and secure.
It's all about safety and efficiency, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I was going through your resume and I was looking at your background, and then I noticed you had worked at the Port of Rotterdam in a lot of different jobs, but how did you end up starting to build aquatic drones? What brought you to the maritime industry and what brought you to the world of drones?
To be honest, I was at that time working for the Port of Rotterdam as an IT project manager, and I was really looking outside of the window and I saw a flying drone. And I thought, okay, that doesn't make sense in a port to have flying drones because we are in the biggest port of Europe, Rotterdam. So you need to do something with water.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started to draw my first drone, but it was not a flying drone, but it was an aquatic drone. And that was, I thought, okay, how can we then add value to the port of Rotterdam with aquatic drones? Okay. And yes, so it started really.
So you
looking
see
at
them fly, and then suddenly you think it should be floating, right?
Yes, because I mean, when you imagine that around Rotterdam, 1 million people are living there or working there, and when something happened on the water, the first sensors are mostly on land.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, let's start to make a kind of family of drones that can really do surveillance in the port of Rotterdam. Okay. So that was a first start.
Yeah. And maybe good to share a bit about your journey. So you have this great idea, you see this drone flying and think, no, it needs to be floating. How did you bring it to what it is today?
Yes, well, that's really a long story, because when you have the idea and you start your first drawing, then you go up to the CFO at that time, the boss of the innovation team, and it's like, hey, I believe we need to do something with drones on the water. And to really make a long story short, after 9 months, I decided to quit my job at the Port of Rotterdam and start my own company. And at that time, there was an accelerator program. Mm-hmm. It's called PortXL. And there was the first editions. And yes, we were part of that one. And we were the part of the winners. So there were 10 startups selected, and we were one of the 10. And that was our first step into the maritime world, to be honest. Yeah.
And I guess it's really easy to build an aquatic drone, right?
It's not easy, because the first one we bought because we had an idea, but we didn't have a drone. But we suddenly had one customer, so we really bought a kind of model, model boat. We put a small camera on it, and we did our first project. But after a while, we said, okay, now we know there's a market, there's a need, and we can add value to it. So let's build our own aquatic drone. So we started first a new company, AquaSmart Engineering. Mm-hmm. And within AquaSmart Engineering, we started the process of designing and developing a whole new family of drones.
Okay. And now you're selling the drone, or are you selling the service? How do you take it to bring this kind of service or product to the market?
Yes, so the drones we have developed and designed for our own inspections, mm-hmm. Because we had some special needs that were not in the market. For one of the things we want to, it needs to be transportable. because we're also carrying out projects outside of Rotterdam, outside of Europe. And so we decided to fully develop it ourselves. And that took us 18 months really to develop the first generation of drones. And we still have them, we use them, but we are not selling them to customers because the result is the data. And the data, that is important for our customer. And when I ask our customer, they love the drones, but they more love the data. Because the data tells them what to do next. And yeah.
Okay, that's nice, that's nice. And you say the data, it is, so I guess it requires two types of innovation. I think there is something about the boat and the drone itself, and you're collecting data. So can you elaborate a bit on these?
Yes, so I will just take you a little bit more in the infrastructure. So when you look to a port infrastructure, you have quay walls and you have jetties. I mean, those are the main infrastructure parts. And with our drones, we go sometimes really under a jetty or under a construction, and then we are able to collect the data of the underside of the top deck, for example. And that's all we take pictures of. So we create a photogrammetry visual 3D model, and that is the data that customers can use to find out, do we see cracks, do we see corrosion, do we see missing concrete parts. So all that is then combined in the end product. Okay. And that's the service we deliver.
Okay. Yep. And how did customers previously do it?
They previously and still do with manned vessels. So sometimes you really see 2 or 3 persons in a vessel, they're rowing under a construction and they take some pictures. And sometimes they're looking too long time upside and then they fall into the water. It also can happen. So customers say now, okay, we now know there's a drone technology. Let's use more drones and manned vessels. Yeah. So you see now a change from manned vessels into more remotely controlled drones.
And divers, are they still using those as well? Or?
Yes, for the underwater part, drivers are still being used because you can't do everything with a drone. And so with our aquatic drones, we're doing from the surface to the construction. But underwater, we're using our underwater drones because our ROVs. And with those ROVs, we can also record damages and anomalies of the construction, but we can't repair it. So often divers are being used to clean it, to replace things. So an underwater robot can really do a good inspection, but it doesn't have hands, not yet, to do the repairs.
Okay. No. Any plans in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on it. We're working on it at the moment. To also try to, how can I say, for example, to clean parts on constructions, so that you have a better picture.
Okay, yeah. Nice. Maybe zooming in a bit on the journey. We both come from Rotterdam. We started in the ecosystem. If you look at Rotterdam, the port of Rotterdam, if you look at the maritime world, is it a good scene to start a company?
Yes, absolutely. It's a good scene. It's a good scene to start because first we have a very huge port, Rotterdam. So you have enormous space to test things, to experiment before you start. There are a lot of different players and a lot of companies connected in the ports. So when you start, it's a really excellent space to be in Rotterdam and in the port of Rotterdam. But it's less when you take the next step.
Okay.
Because for the next step, you want to have more backup from used customers. So the first phase, everybody loves you, everybody likes to do a pilot, sometimes a paid pilot, but then the journey starts to go for paid projects. And then it's a hard environment, Rotterdam.
And why is Rotterdam then? Do you feel Rotterdam is different than other ports?
Yes, I mean what I can compare that Rotterdam, but perhaps also European ports are different than American ports or Asian ports. I always said when I start in Rotterdam and you offer your projects, and you say, okay, this is the price. The first reaction is, oh, that is expensive. When you go to the United States, it's okay, this is the price. Okay, that's good. So you always see a difference. So you need to bargain more in the Netherlands or in Europe than in other countries.
Okay.
So this is one of the things I've noticed.
Okay. So that's a price thing, but the openness to act or use this technology, is there a difference in that?
Yes, what I see that in the Netherlands, it's also a closed community. And that's our logic because it's a port. So they exist for more than 300 years already. So there are strong relationships between suppliers and the ports. And then to break in with an innovative solution, that's sometimes hard.
Okay.
Because you have an existing relationship for 25 years, and then you're coming in, guys, we have new things, a new innovation, let's try us. We don't know you, we don't know your technical things, so you need to prove it. And that takes time. But we will, yes, we will break those walls. So.
And abroad, you just can say, I'm from Rotterdam, right?
Yes, absolutely. So in other countries, it's easier because then they open the doors because you're from Rotterdam.
Yeah.
And so we did a project for the port authorities of New York, and then it really helps that you are from Rotterdam, and you can also use Rotterdam as a reference.
Okay.
That is,
That's nice. Rotterdam Maritime Board, you're also part of that one?
Yes, that's correct. But
can you elaborate a bit on?
Yes, we have Rotterdam Maritime Board, and that really is a group of 40 people, and their main task is to help the local politics from Rotterdam, but also the province of South Holland, to help with the maritime questions. So we see that a lot of things are going on in the maritime world, and how can we feed and help those politicians to make the right decisions that are good for the maritime world. So the Rotterdam Maritime Port is promoting and also supporting the politicians.
And a good network to be in, I guess.
It helps. It helps absolutely. Yeah, it helps sometimes. Yeah.
My experience with Rotterdam is it's putting a lot of effort in bringing technology, bringing companies, bringing the industry abroad as well, also from the local government.
Absolutely. So we have
Port of Rotterdam.
Rotterdam Partners. Probably you know them. Yeah. But also from South Holland, they really work hard to promote Rotterdam and also the ecosystem with startups and innovative companies. Yeah.
I always ask the question, like, if you look at the industry, the maritime industry, you're in it for quite a while now. What is the thing that you have learned that most people don't get?
Wow, the most important thing I learned. I've learned a lot of things. And I believe the main thing you need to have in Rotterdam is patience. You need to have patience to get from A to B. Because I thought it's an old industry, it's a little bit conservative industry. The people are willing, but they need to get to know you and your products. And that takes time. So as an entrepreneur, you're always in a hurry because you always need to get to the next petrol station because you need to continue. And the other side is that people want to see, okay, what kind of company is it? And that takes time. So you need to have patience. I believe that's the most important thing I've learned in being an entrepreneur in Rotterdam. Absolutely.
In the industry. And if you look at the asset inspection or the inspections that you're doing, what is the thing that you have learned from the processes or the port?
What I see, and that's also a nice thing to see, is that the maintenance and also the status of our infrastructure, when I compare it with other countries, is really on a high level. So we really take care of our assets, and that is something what I've seen when I can compare that with other countries and other projects. Yeah. So of course we find some anomalies sometimes, but when I compare it with other countries, for example the US, this is much more a company that's try to build every time new things and not maintain their old things. But yes, you see that it's
building a new port takes a while, right?
It takes a while, and it is now more expensive. Yeah. This is what we've seen. Yeah.
I can recall the US is a completely different
market.
Port. The infrastructure it's on a completely different different level.
Yes.
Agree with that. AI. I think that's one of the topics which is also often discussed. If you look at the things that you are doing, I guess you are using quite some AI technology inside your solution.
Yes, for us it's important, especially in the recognizing of damages or anomalies. So, for example, when we have done an inspection of a jetty, of a quay wall, we often take above water 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 pictures, and AI helps us to find all those bad spots in the picture. It's still in progress, we're still developing it, so we are being supported by AI, so it's not perfect now, but it really makes our life easier at the moment.
There's a lot of data processing required, I guess.
Yes, absolutely, because to create a 3D model will take us a few days, sometimes weeks, depending on the size of the assets, and then find all the damages and spots that are interesting. That is, yes, quite demanding.
And thinking ahead, where do the ROVs and the aquatic drones take us? What are the next things you see on the roadmap?
Yes, I mean,
or in the world, maybe trends.
Yes, I see two important things going to happen in the future. Autonomous will be one of it. So we are now still using our drone pilots with remote controls. And we will see that in the future it will be a much more autonomous process of doing inspections. So we have just then in a port a few drones and they can do autonomously their inspections. That will one of the things. And the other thing what I see is that surveying will be much more important. There's a lot of things about safety, what is going into our port and out of the ports. So probably we'll do also more surveillance work on that with our drones.
So that there is no submarine entering the port, that is unseen.
Yes. Those kind of things. So in a few years we are there.
Okay, cool. And on your journey as AquaSmartXL, what do you see as the next milestones, and what are the challenges that you see ahead?
Let's first start with the challenges. The challenges is the first one is to promote ourselves. We are now for 8 years in the business. We're doing really a good job. I believe we are in the top 3 in the world when you really talk about creating digital twins of water-related infrastructure. But nobody knows us, so this is the first step we will work on to get more publicity and do more marketing. The other is that we will grow, but also grow internationally. We're already doing projects in the US, Singapore, and the Middle East, but we'll do more of them, of course. And also the team, we have 2 teams, the engineers. I can tell you something is not ready yet, but we are building on a climbing robot. And that robot, yes, we hope to launch it this year. And that robot makes life easier for a lot of people, also for divers. And it can inspect pillars, foundation pillars, but also pillars of jetties. It can work underwater, 25 meters, but also above water, 25 meters. So that will be one of our newest developments. So we keep developing on the engineering sides and also on the executing of.
Why would I want to have a climbing robot instead of a moving robot?
Because when you see the construction, where it's on piles, you see for the above water part, the same men with the rowing boats are coming up and they looking up and take some pictures. Under there coming some divers, and then you have 2 different data sets. They also need to combine. This is very difficult, and they are not really accurate. With our climber robot, it's a floating on the surface. It clamps itself automatically. It climbs underwater. It knows exactly where it is. It cleans the spots. It measures. It goes down and goes up again. So then you have a complete data set of your whole pillar.
Okay.
And
but also cleaning. That is what you mentioned.
That is yes, something that is. I mean, I know the team is watching us, but we're working hard on the cleaning part, and it's not easy. It's in demanding of the markets because then when you measure, you need to clean, and when you clean, you can clean parts or big parts. So this is now what's going on.
And to get my head around, I could send a robot which is not connected to it. But the data still is there. What is the advantage that this climber does have? Is that more accurate, or what is?
When you send a normal ROV robot, it's quite difficult to do measurements because you always have that moving of your the buoyancy. It's almost it's quite hard.
Okay.
That is one of the things, to really create a picture all around it for a drone to stay at the same level is almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have created, in this case, the climbing robots, because there's nothing on the market that can do that. Yeah.
And it is required, right?
It is required, so that's why we also have patented it.
Oh, that's nice.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how was that process?
It's a process. Yes, and I mean, for us it was new because it was the first time that we had a patent request.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go to a patent bureau, then you have your experts on it, and then you have your first step. It's then patented worldwide, and then in Europe, and then you need to pay for all those patents all over the world. That is too expensive. You select a few countries that you say, okay, these are the countries we need to protect our patents. So it's an ongoing process, and it's a quite expensive and not easy process, to be honest. Yeah.
And if you look at the innovation, I clearly see what you're doing. I think you're bringing safety and security on that end. Who is the biggest beneficiary of this? Who is actually? Is that the asset owner? Why is it becoming that important to know the quality of that, and who is benefiting from it most?
I mean, really good question, because we have several owners of that assets. Sometimes the port authorities, they own the infrastructure. Sometimes it's an oil and gas company that owns it. Sometimes it's the province. So it's always the owner, because the owner is also legal, responsible for having his infrastructure in a good shape. Mm-hmm. So he or she always benefits from it. What we see, and that makes it also difficult, that when the port authority is responsible, sometimes the companies, they hire us and say, okay, we know that it's a responsibility of the port authority, but please help us and take a look under our construction. Yeah. So we have different people. Yes. Yeah.
And do you also see like the regulatory arrangements coming into place? Is it playing a more important role that ports are being held accountable for it from the insurance perspective?
Yes, I mean, from ports, they have everybody has a kind of process in place for doing maintenance. So once every 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, they doing their inspections. Mm-hmm. And it is, I mean, here in Europe, in the Netherlands, or so in the US, it's always mandatory. So budgets are reserved for that. So that's a good thing that happened. In other countries, we see sometimes that, okay, let's wait a while, let's skip around, but then you get in trouble. Okay. Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Well, Marlon, I would like to thank you for this conversation. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot about the drones and what is happening. Some final remarks or words that you want to say?
No, I mean, it was a pleasure to be your guest, absolutely. And I always encourage everybody just work in the maritime sector because it's a splendid sector to work in.
Okay.
Yes?
Hey, thank you very much, Marlon.
Okay,
bye-bye.
You're welcome.